What's going on, guys, and welcome to your JavaScript tutorial. In this video we're going to talk about data types in JavaScript. Now there's actually 5 primitive data types, and a couple already we have actually talked about, and a couple this is going to be the first time that you're hearing about them. So the first one would be string, right? Remember when we wrote any type of text, we needed to put let's say my name is something, right? So this is a string. So this is one of the most primitive data types in JavaScript, and it is right now assigned to the variable. Now the next data type that we covered was actually number. So if we created a var, let's say we called it number in this case, and I could assign a number to it. And there's nothing special really about the numbers, apart from the fact that you don't use the quotation marks, unlike with a string, which was the key rule for the string. And you can actually write 2 types of variables. You can write with decimals, or you can write without decimals. And obviously, once JavaScript knows that it's a number, it's gonna be performing the math operations on it. Well, it's going to be actually performing math operations also on a string if you'll be doing that, but we're going to cover that later. Now, the third primitive data type in JavaScript is actually called Boolean. And I'm going to just write it over here, Boolean. And Booleans are like a switch, like a true or false. And we'll be covering them a lot when we'll be actually dealing with if statements, because that's going to be the case where basically you have only 2 options. You have either you go right or you go left. And so Boolean is true or false. It's I'm going to explain it more with actual examples, because I think it's going to be much more easier to understand. But for now, all you need to know that it's either true, it can be either true or it can be false. So let's start writing here what they are. So we know that this is a string, this is a number, and this is going to be a Boolean. Now the 4th primitive data type in JavaScript is actually undefined. And let me show you what I mean by undefined. So let's say I would create a variable over here, I don't know, num2, right? But if I don't assign any value for that variable at the time, it's actually undefined. You haven't defined it yet. It doesn't mean that it's 0. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. However, you just haven't given the value. So let's go over here, and I'm going to type num2. So I want the document to display num2, what is in my variable. And we refresh, and you can see it says undefined. That, again, it doesn't say 0 here. It doesn't say, oh, it doesn't exist or it doesn't run the program. It just says, listen, you haven't defined it yet. Whenever you do, come back and I'll show you what you actually have stored in that variable. Now, the last primitive data type in JavaScript is actually null. So I'm going to call this var0, and I'm going to give it a value of null. And null is nothing. It's supposed to be something that doesn't exist. Now, these were the 5 primitive data types in JavaScript. However, there's also a complex data types in JavaScript, and that would be function, and it also would be object. Now, there's also another thing called array, and technically array is an object, so that's why you cannot say, well, it's actually a separate complex data type. However, because we're going to be covering really extensively, I'm just right now writing to you that we will going to be covering it, and it is complex. However, arrays are actually objects. So just keep that in mind.